up the nerve to tell his father this, that his father did the right thing, and the authorities dropped the ball, that everybody along the lines in the criminal justice system dropped the ball, and now they've taken his father away from him.
Prosecutors argue against releasing Velasquez because it would endanger Goulart and his family, but supporters of the UFC champ say Velasquez is not the threat.
I want to see the father home with his child, with a minor, and you need to help him to recover all that. That's what I want to see.
Still with me, attorneys Steve and Silva. All right, I want to show you all this. This is the motion. This is the petition for habeas corpus that has been filed by the attorneys for Cain Velasquez, because they're saying that he should not be in jail. And let me set the stage. What I learned from reading this motion with lots of exhibits attached is that this was not a capital offense. It was attempted murder with some other felonies, not a capital offense. Is there a less restrictive option than jail that could be reasonable and satisfy the purpose of incarceration? Steve?
Yeah, I think there is other options here. I mean, I think, pretrial release is something that most people are able to avail themselves of. I think in this case, it's an extraordinary case in where you have an individual who's protecting his son. Look, what he did, we cannot justify. You can't, in a system of laws, having vigilantes out there driving at 100 miles an hour, shooting into open cars is outrageous conduct and probably will be subject to criminal penalty, although I would worry about jury nullification here if I was a prosecutor. But yeah, there's obviously other options available than keeping him incarcerated without bail. I'm actually very surprised in the state of California that this is going on.
Me too. I am a little bit. And Silva, I want to do another deep dive because I read this very long petition, and one of the things that it pointed out, allegedly, it's contained in this pleading that's been filed, is that one of the reasons the magistrate judge initially said, I'm denying bond and he's in jail, is because he's a risk to the public. And I have a hard time. He has no criminal history. How is he a risk to the public when the allegation is that he went after someone who allegedly molested his own son?
Judge Ashley, there's a few issues. And Steve is absolutely right, the way that he said it. The judge could be alluding to the fact that there was a high-speed chase, there was a weapon discharged in public that could have hurt anybody. I've actually represented quite a few fighters, MMA fighters, UFC fighters, and there is this natural tendency by law enforcement and by judges to think that they are loaded weapons walking, that they are temperamental, cannot control themselves, and can be set off. In this example, Cain Velasquez, it looks like, had an immediate reaction to be this vigilante and protect his son, even though at the time, the crime wasn't happening right in front of him. The molestation was not occurring in front of his eyes. He chased him down after he found out. So it makes sense to me why the judge did what they did. But look, Judge Ashley, I know the defense attorneys very well in this case. They are amazing attorneys, and they're absolutely right. You have to show that Cain Velasquez is someone who might escape, someone who has a past that is violent, who is a danger to the community. I don't think this case rises to a point where a judge should deny bail altogether. I've had attempted murder clients that I've been able to get released. There are anklets available where the client can be tracked. And I do think it's imperative to understand it is important that the victim here, who is his son as well, again, not condoning the behavior. We have a court of law so that we don't get vigilantes like this, but he should be with his son. And there are ways to ensure he stays around in order to make his court requirements and also be there for his kid, who, again, with was harmed.
And I want to make clear that that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about whether or not he should be charged and face a conviction. He is being charged because you're right, you can't have a vigilante. That's not how our system is designed, but whether or not he should be out. And I must add to that another set of facts that I've taken from this petition, this writ of habeas corpus that his defense attorneys that you know have filed in Silva. Therefore, I'd like to direct this question to you because they raised this. Once he was incarcerated, he has been assessed and he's had different medical tests, diagnostic tests done. And guess what? He's been diagnosed with traumatic brain injury, TBI. Maybe not too surprising for those who know MMA fighters because the reality is they have a lot of contact with the head affecting the brain. And it was revealed that he suffers from an impaired ability to control his impulses. But the next piece of this goes on to say that they've already tried to tell the judge, not successfully, that he's been accepted into an inpatient program to help treat these brain abnormalities. So Silva, knowing that, knowing the defense attorneys, do you think they might prevail on this argument?
There's a good chance. Look, there's something about California law that I love practicing here, and I know Steve would agree with me. California does a lot for mental illness cases, and they do a lot when there are traumatic brain injury cases. And the fact that they found a place to help him is huge. But let's also not forget, their argument also has a counter argument to it. If he does have impulse control issues, the prosecutors will say, look, the defense is admitting that there are issues of control here, and yet they want him out. How do we know that this rehabilitative program can keep him in and the rest of the public safe? What if Mr. Velasquez accidentally sees something that he misinterprets as a danger and goes after an innocent person? That's where the prosecutors are going to lie. I always say as a defense attorney, if we can find a way to help someone be better through rehabilitation, through treatment, I think the court has a vested interest to allow that to happen so that if Mr. Velasquez is released or has a not guilty verdict through jury nullification or what have you, he can get the treatment he needs. So again, I think the defense did what they had to do, and I actually think they have a really good possibility of getting what they want.
All right, Steve, let's listen together to what one person who was interviewed had to say about this matter.
I can say it's insane that in Santa Clara County, a child rapist is home and the father is led in chain to the court and back and forth. I think that's insane. I think it shows something that on our society, this society is sick when stuff like that happen. I think we need to show, but it's beyond supporting him as a person. We have to show that change in society. Things like that can't happen anymore. Child rapists can't be free. That's what we and everybody have to join this case to show the support, to show the judge and the politician that it's unacceptable. Our kids are not free.
All right, Steve, weigh in on that. I know you're in California, and that man didn't mince words, and it is true. The alleged predator of sexual crimes against the son is out, but the man who reacted to that and allegedly committed crimes is in jail.
Yeah. Well, look, I think it's important, as lawyers or judges, you try and take the emotion out of your decision-making process. That man on that video is obviously highly emotional. And on the face of it, it appears very unjust. I would imagine that the, alleged child molester is out on bail, and hopefully he will receive and get justice meted out to him sooner rather than later if he did what he's accused of. I think in this case, Silva brought up an interesting point, and I think you could apply it to both, and that is, who is more of a risk to the general public? The alleged child molester who, if he committed those crimes, is likely to reoffend based on all the information that is available scientific-wise, or the other individual who shot the gun in the car because it was really a crime of passion. I think you can make the argument that the child molester is more of a threat to the public than Mr. Velasquez. So look, in this case, it appears that the one gentleman received bail. I think in order to achieve justice, pending trial, in this case, Mr. Velasquez needs to be offered some sort of pretrial supervision option, whether it be the ankle bracelet, as Silva talked about, or something along those lines. But there is an irony here and an injustice in that we're really saying that Mr. Velasquez is a bigger threat to the general public than the other guy who's alleged to have molested his son, and I don't think that's just in this case.
And you're both going to stay with me because you raised such a perfect point. We are going to hear next from Cain Velasquez's defense attorney. Mark Garagos talks about why his client remains locked up while the alleged molester roams free.
Scott Peterson looking for a new trial because a juror withheld information.
She feared for the life of her unborn child. That's relevant in a trial where a pregnant woman was murdered.
You are entitled to a fair and impartial jury.
These questions that we're even asking her, how relevant are they to whether or not Scott Peterson was guilty of murder?
What if he does get a new trial? Will it make any difference for Scott Peterson?
The Scott Peterson appeal hearing. Final arguments. Live coverage starting Thursday at 1 noon Central on Court TV.
Are you disabled and can no longer work? This is an important message for you. Are you over the age of 50 and have filed for disability benefits but were denied by your insurance company or the Social Security Administration? Call Premier Disability now. We are here to help. If you filed for Social Security disability benefits and were denied, you should know that thousands of disability claims are unnecessarily denied each month. Call Premier Disability now for a no-cost, no-obligation review. Work with a team who will fight to get you the benefits you deserve, who understands the physical, emotional, and potential financial impacts, and will share their insider expertise.